We're so glad you've joined us. And we have some visitors tonight. They're sitting in that row. It's Felice, JC, and Rowan. So if you have a chance to meet them after the service, welcome them. Okay? We're glad you're here. When Rowan was a little kid, they came to a bat mitzvah of Stacy Pector, if any of you remember the Pector family. So we figured out how we knew each other. I'm not Rabbi Edelman. Rabbi Edelman is home. She has COVID. And I called her today, and I'm so glad she was home because she sounds like Gravel Gertie. And I don't want to get sick before the High Holy Days. So, and I said rest, but she's on Paxlovid, and she says she feels great. She just doesn't sound terrific. But she feels much, much better. But she did write the sermon that I'll be sharing with you tonight. And it was funny because on Thursday I said to John, well, I guess I'm going to have to write the sermon. And I opened up my computer, and sitting in my inbox, Rabbi wrote the sermon. So, Rabbi, if you're watching, thank you, but glad you're home resting. So we're going to start our service on page 128 in our prayer book, remembering that our prayer book goes from right to left in the Hebrew direction. And this is actually a poem in the bottom right-hand corner by Bialik. And the way he has me pronounce the Hebrew is actually not the way modern Hebrew is pronounced, but it goes with the rhythm of the song. First I'll sing it in Hebrew, and then I'll sing it in English. Hopefully it's familiar, and you'll join in. Page 128.
Come gather to welcome the Sabbath, our Queen. Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, and with her the angels of peace and of rest. Draw near, and here abide. Draw near, O Sabbath bride. Peace also to you, you angels of peace.
So in case you are wondering who the Sabbath bride is, it's not Mary Beth Hayat. She is not the Sabbath bride, okay? The Sabbath bride is from the Kabbalistic tradition. She's Bob's bride. And in the Kabbalistic tradition, they believed that there was a masculine side of God and a feminine side of God. And on the Sabbath, both sides get together. And that feminine side is the Sabbath bride, which is actually then God is really much more complete on the Sabbath, where everything is one, the masculine and feminine. It's a really, really interesting idea and a very old idea. And the other song you hear the welcoming the Sabbath bride in is L'cha Dodi. So, but this is what this idea is. And as I was just saying, and I won't be too intellectual here, but I was saying that Bialik didn't use the modern Hebrew pronunciation. So the modern Hebrew pronunciation would be Chachama Merosh Ha'ilanot Nistalka. But he makes it go Hachama Merosh Ha'ilanot Nistalka. So this song drives Israelis crazy. But luckily, I can move back and forth. So now we're going to move back to page 120, and invite Colonel Levitt and Mrs. Levitt to lead us in the Shabbat blessings on page 120. I know, it's a big incline.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Light first.
This is the only prayer where you do the behavior before the blessing. The only one.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We're on page 122. Right there.
The heavens and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from the work of creation that God had done.
It was beautiful, Jim. We sing together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom tehila v'mikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Ki banu v'acharta v'tanu kidasha v'kovim, v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon Inchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Okay. Thank you.
Tomorrow.
Be careful going down. We are going to continue in our prayer book on page 146 with our call to worship. I ask the congregation to please rise.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Page 148, we read together in Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma poteach she'arim, u'vitbuna mishane itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, Umsader et hakochavim, v'mishmarotehem, barakia kirtsono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Mavir yom umevi layla, umavdil bein yom uvein layla, Adonai tzevaot shemo. El chai tamid le'imoch le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. We continue on page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. We continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 154. And, religious school starting. I'll give you a little educational quiz. Where else in the sanctuary, besides the prayer book and the Torah, do you find the Ve'ahavta? The mezuzah. All right, this is going to be an A+ class. Here we go.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אלוהים מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך שלפך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך היו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 157, the bottom left-hand corner of the page. This side of the room is going to start, and this side of the room will read the indented paragraph, and we'll go back and forth. So you begin. In a world
torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
the high heavens declare your glory, may earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. Sinai we bow ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Our failures are many and our faults are great. It has been our glory to bear witness to our God, even alive in dark ages, your vision of the world.
And altogether, let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Narate ונאמר כי פוד אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאה ישראל.
Page 163. Let's read the top of the page together. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. This is a Vashamru that Evan and I were working on when we first came in, so it's a little offbeat.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם בריבונם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם בריבונם. בני ובית בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם בריבונם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם בריבונם. מששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם בריבונם. ביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם בריבונם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם בריבונם.
Don, welcome back. You doing okay?
Yeah.
Don broke his hip. You are amazing. Probably because you had an amazing
I
caregiver.
love you.
Oh, well, that's why I come to work. Well, I'm really glad you guys are back. Very happy.
A long haul.
Yeah. In sickness and in health, right? We're going to continue on page 164. If you can rise, please rise with the Amidah.
Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi agit ilatecha. Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi agit ilatecha. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi agit ilatecha. Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi agit ilatecha.
Page 166.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagivor v'Hanora, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor leolam Adonai, Michei kol atah, Rav v'Hoshia, Morir atah. Mechakel chayim b'chesed, Mechaye hakol b'rachamim rabim, Somich noflim v'rofei koholim, Umatir asurim, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידה מלך, מלך ממית ומחייך ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מקיים הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהלוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. This evening, later on, after Shalom Rav, we'll have our silent meditation. And we're not going to be reading Torah tonight. We're going to be reading Haftarah. And I'll explain why in a bit. But for now, we have our Song of Peace, Shalom Rav, which can be found on page 178.
Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Hasidim La'olam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Hasidim La'olam. Ki ata hu melech hador, lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech hador, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Hasidim La'olam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Hasidim La'olam. B'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael, b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Hasidim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Hasidim Le'olam. Hasidim Le'olam, Hasidim Le'olam.
We pray silently. This prayer is not in your prayer book.
Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yamar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yamar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yamar Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to take care of one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle through this world. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, Yomar Elohechem. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to take care of one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, Yomar Elohechem.
We're going to turn in our prayer book to our prayer of healing, which can be found on page 371 in your prayer book. And tonight, before I read our list of names of the people we love so much, if you have any names that you would like to say before the Mishabera, please do so. I'll start on this side of the room, and I'll go over to this side. If there's any names.
Gay need.
I'm going to go to the back of the room.
Sharon T. Clissold.
Matthew Zelinsky.
James Miller.
Amy Farr, Alex Bronson.
Gary and Suzanne Hart and Barry Gilchrist.
And to you, Wayne.
Thank you.
And to their names, we send our heartfelt prayers of healing to Rabbi Robert Warak, Martha Brandween, Nancy Keller Coffey, Robert Summers, Jessica Knight, Niles Chopper, Judith Landau, Pam Friedman, Eric Blumenfeld, Jean O'Connor, Myra Taxa, Linda Kaplan, Michael Lynch, Rabbi Sally Prezant, Elizabeth Castellano, Debbie Strell, Jane Hilson Aiello, Yvette Hirado, Janet Bernstein, Don Paris, Yakova Leah Bat Ruvain Liba Bracha, Rachel Rosen. And now together we sing our prayer of healing on page 371.
May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage who make our lives a blessing and let us say Amen. The renewal of body, renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Just going to switch it up a little bit, come over to this side of the bed. So first, we begin with a very meaningful sermon written by Rabbi Edelman. And even if I didn't tell you that she wrote it, you would immediately know that it wasn't me who was writing it. It is usually very difficult for me to write weekly Shabbat sermon in the midst of writing High Holy Day sermons. Well, that gives it away, right? Okay. I am so caught up in the subject that I'm going to speak about, it consumes everything I do. Every class I teach, every conversation I have, all inevitably turn back to the High Holy Days. And so when I was reading Ki Tate Say last week, which is this week's portion, I realized that I could speak about almost anything because this Parsha has the largest concentration of mitzvot, commandments, of any portion. There are 74 out of the traditional 613 in just this one portion. Parshat Ki Tate Say is one of those perfect parshiot for general subject headings. It's easy to get lost amid the 74 laws outlined in the text, covering every aspect of human life and our relationship with God. The list is daunting, like flipping through all the advanced textbooks for a course without yet beginning the basics. Like opening a page of Talmud without any context. It represents our experience with Jewish learning. There is really too much material, and how does one begin? The answer to the question lies in the Parsha itself. Historically, many students have embarked upon the complexities of Talmud study through one of the laws of Ki Tate Say. Now, the rabbi didn't put this in her sermon, but I just want to interject this. About 20 years ago, I was told by a friend of mine from Korea, the Korean people so admired the perceived intellect of the Jewish people that they had decided to study Talmud in Korea. So, I don't know if this is still true, but can you imagine translating the Talmud, which is already impossible, to Korean? I just can't even. So, I bet that really made everybody incredibly intelligent. So with Ki Tate Say, the law beginning under the heading is about the one that we're focusing on, is the returning of lost things. If you look closely at this verse, you begin to understand why significant Jewish learning evolves from this verse. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 1. If you see your brother's ox or sheep gone astray, do not hide from them. You surely shall return it to your brother. The Hebrew for surely return is heshev teshvim, from the root shuv, to return. In the month of Elul, we begin to focus on another type of returning to God, returning to our better selves. We are in the process of teshuvah. So what do the laws of returning lost property teach us about teshuvah, about repentance? Baba Metzia teaches us that we are only responsible for returning lost property if it has an identifying mark on it. Therefore, if we find a penny in the street, we're not obligated to return it, because there's no way we could find the penny's owner. But, states the Talmud, if there is a siman, a sign, that demonstrates the owner's identity, then the finder is obligated to return the object to the owner. For example, Rabbi's grandfather Jack was known for leaving things all over the place. He was so busy during the course of the day, he would just put his cell phone down and walk away. So one day, she received a call from a woman who said she was calling from the Cantaloupe section at Pathmark. She dialed the first saved name on the phone, and she said, do you know the owner of the phone? And of course, they found Jack, and he was able to retrieve his phone from this very kind woman. This siman, this sign, in this case, was apparent. But sometimes the signs are less apparent of the location or placement of an object. And the subtlety of the siman can make that connection so much more difficult. During the weeks leading up to Yamim Noraim, which translates as the days of awe, as we call the high holy days, we're asked to engage in soul struggle, the process of teshuvah. And part of the process includes reviewing the near past to find signs that we have caused another pain, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and find signs that others acknowledge that others have caused us pain. When we approach others with an apology or come to them with forgiveness, we return to them and to ourselves something that was lost, whether that's love, dignity, self-worth, honor, trust. We do not know what piece of another person's soul we possess until we begin the process of teshuvah and return. We are human beings, and by our own very actions or words, we have the capacity to destroy or to repair. We can build up or we can tear down. We can take or we can give. Teshuvah is about repair, return, rebuilding. In fact, the Torah teaches us to be remarkably persistent in our efforts towards reconciliation. While the Talmud states, if one returned an animal and it ran away again, and he returned it and it ran away again, he's still obligated to return it, for it states in Parshat Ki Teitzei, return and you shall return. Maimonides, one of our scholars, in Hilkot Teshuvah, the laws of Teshuvah, teaches that if a person asks a friend for forgiveness and they're rejected, the person must return a second time and a third time in order to find forgiveness. If he is rejected after the third time, the onus falls upon the person who will not or refuses to forgive. Teshuvah is like finding the owner of a lost article. It's a painstaking process which requires both self-examination and care of another one's soul. And through the searching, we determine what and who is most important to us. As we approach Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, may we begin the process of teshuvah and reconciliation. Although we cannot stand in the same place where we stood before when we caused another soul pain or had pain inflicted upon us, we could rise to a higher level of connection, recommit, and love. Surely we can return. May we begin the process to make healing a reality. Amen. Thank you so much, Rabbi Edelman. That was so beautiful. So, speaking of rabbis, Rabbi Prezand taught me something that I found to be incredibly meaningful, which is why I'm not reading the Torah tonight. I'm going to read the Haftarah. So, there's an observance that we have in the summer when no one's Jewish, so nobody knows what this observance is, and it's called Tisha B'Av. And Tisha B'Av this year on the Gregorian calendar was on August 13th. And that is when we remember the destruction of the ancient temple. And this is also the day that we say, really, every horrible thing that has ever happened to the Jewish people, we say happened on that day. The pogroms, the Spanish Inquisition, actually it's a long list. I was going to start making a list and it's actually very depressing. But we're still here. And tonight, and starting that night, we start to read something called the Haftarot of Consolation. So Nachamu, that song I sang before, Nachamu, Nachamu, comfort us, it's the same word, okay? And Nachamu came from the prophet Isaiah. So starting in August on Tisha B'Av, every Shabbat until Rosh Hashanah, we read another selection from Isaiah. And during this time, the prophet Isaiah comforts the Jewish people following the destruction of ancient Jerusalem and when we were expulsed from our land. Each selection that is read, starting then and every week, elaborates on the future restoration of the children of Israel and reminds us of God's power in our lives. And this string of Haftarot is Sheva Dechemta, the 7 Haftarot of consolation. 7 is also a very important number in Judaism because there are 7 days in the week, God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day, God rested. And also on the Sabbath, we're supposed to reunite with who we are, get back to our better self. So it's understandable why we would read a Haftarah of consolation, because often the Haftarah, not the Torah, because with the Torah we read in a certain order, so the holidays don't line up with the holidays. So you'll be reading about Passover, not during Passover. And you can read about, and by the way, you're not going to find Purim or Hanukkah in the Torah. That's why they're considered minor holidays. Okay? And, but Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shavuot, Pesach, these holidays in the Torah aren't going to line up with the Jewish year. So, what's interesting is that we have this terrible day of Tisha B'Av, and it's very, very sad. A lot of people fast on this day. Fasting in Judaism is very serious. If we're fasting, if we're not eating, we're saying this is a serious holiday. And, but then there's no, like, day of consolation. So our sages realized we needed to start warming back up to God. So the basics of Rosh Hashanah is when we get to Rosh Hashanah, that's when we proclaim God's power in the world. And we affirm our belief in God. But Tisha B'Av, the destruction of the ancient temple, when every bad thing that ever happened to the Jewish people is remembered, that's when our perception of God's power is very stifled. The temple was destroyed and we were exiled. We had to flee Israel or die. And scholars also return to this time as the exile of God's presence from our lives. You know, where is God? A lot of us are struggling with where is God since October 7th. And as we lead up to the High Holy Days, it has become even more painful because of all the suffering that has gone on since that day to many people, not just the Jewish people. And it is really weighing very heavily on all of our souls. So these haftarot of consolation, I think we need more than ever this year as we move towards the High Holy Days, because it's very hard to find emunah, to find faith during this time when we are wondering when things will get better, when they will resolve. And we have to do that in order to really celebrate the new year. So this week's Haftarah starts on page 1612 in the Red Torah commentary. And you'll see Isaiah is talking about a woman who can't have a baby. So, you know, nothing's new under the sun, right? Anyone who's suffered through infertility, and I did. By the way, he's now 6'1", so it all worked out. Thank God for modern medicine and infertility treatments. But anyone who suffered through infertility knows how painful that is. And sometimes couples never are able to have a baby that way. Sometimes they adopt, or sometimes they don't have children. And so that was something they wanted. And for women, infertility is even a deeper thing, because for a woman it can really feel like a failure, even though nobody really thinks that. But you can't help how you feel when these things happen. So that is the sort of thing about this portion, is it just talks about that. And Isaiah goes on because Isaiah is a poet. But if you remember your Haftarah blessings, they're in the Blue Prayer Book on 372. You could sing them with me. Then I'll do the Haftarah, then I'll do the blessing after. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hanemarim bemet. Baruch atah
Adonai, Abocher Batorah, Umoshe Avdo, Uv'Yisrael Amo, Uvinviei Ha'emet Batzedek. So I'm on page 1612. Roni Akara Lo Yalada, Pitzchi Rina V'Tzachali Lo Chala, Ki Rabim B'nei Shomema, Mibnei V'ula Amar Adonai, Harchivi Mekom Oholech, Viriot Mishknotaich, Yatu Al Tachshachi, Ha'arichi Meitaraich, B'tidoraich Chazeki, Ki Yamin Usmol Tifrotzi, V'arzei Koyim Yirash, Varim Nishamot Yoshivu. Al tiri ki lo tavoshi, Val tikalmi ki lo tachpiri, Ki voshet alumayich tishkachi, Beherpat al minutayich, Al tizkari od. I'm going to jump over to sentence 10. Ki heharim yamushu, Hanvaot timutena, Vasti Meiteich lo yamush, Uvrit shlomi lo tamut, Amar merchameich Adonai. And so here's the sentence. The rabbi talked about how you have to return things, and this is where God is saying, God is waiting for us to return. God's always ready for us to return, who will take us back in love when we're ready. Sometimes we don't want so much love. Sometimes we're not ready. And the blessing after. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, sadik bechol hadorot, ha'el haneman, ha'omer ve'oseh, hamdaber umkayim, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al haTorah ve'al havodah, Ve'al yom haShabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha ve'limnucha, lechavod ultifaret, al hakol, Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, umevarchim otach, yiparach shimcha, b'fi kol hai tamid, leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. Did that bring back memories of your Haftarah? Okay. Of course, I forgot one word in the middle of it. So occasionally, about 2 years ago, I started forgetting words here and there, so I was petrified. I'm losing my memory. My mother died of complications of Alzheimer's. So I found a neurologist, and I went to him, and I said to him, I'm really, really worried that I'm losing my memory. And he said, well, tell me why. And I said to him, well, sometimes, and he was Jewish, when I'm at synagogue and I'm singing this prayer, I forget this word. And sometimes when I sing this prayer, I forget this word. And I gave him 5 other examples, and he said, here's why I don't think you're losing your memory. Because you remember what you didn't remember with such exquisite detail. Okay, now I think he's used to mollifying women like me, but I'll take it, okay? So, and I do like Dr. Mendelsohn a lot. He listened to me very kindly. But anyway, so Don, when you walk, 3 points of contact, okay? And when I do things, I have to look at each word. I've gotten to that point in my life. So now we invite Wayne Haller to give us some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
On behalf of Monmouth Reformed Temple, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us in our sanctuary today and via live stream. We do have some announcements, but before I get to the ones that were originally sent to me, as you came in, there was a big poster for the blood drive that we're having on Sunday from 9 to 3. It's temple members and family only. We're not taking walk-ins off the street. And for those of you who have known me for a while, you'll know that this is something very near and dear to my heart. Before I got to the point where I was no longer eligible to donate, I had finished 489 platelet donations, which takes a lot of time, a lot of spending of every 3 weeks going and sitting for 2.5, 3 hours while they took the blood out, spun it around, and put it back in. So you can certainly come here for 20 minutes and do a pint. It's not that hard, and hopefully we'll get a good turnout. I understand we have enough that met the amount that we needed, but we can always use more. The High Holy Day packets have been mailed to all members. Please let the temple office know if you've not received yours. Join us on Slichot study and service on Saturday, September 28th, starting at 7 p.m. Dror Israel is this month's recipient of the Tzedakah Box collection. Dror Israel is a pioneering educational movement whose mission is to effect meaningful, long-term educational and social change in Israeli society. The aim of the young educators and social workers is to promote solidarity, social activism, democracy, and equality in communities throughout the land. Eleanor Rubin is sponsoring this month's collection. Our Social Action Committee is again participating in RAC's nonpartisan Get Out the Vote for the general election postcard campaign. Join them for a nonpartisan postcard writing party in person at MRT on September 18th from 6 to 8 p.m. Contact Mary Ann Kligman to RSVP and for more information. MRT is excited to offer adult bar and bat mitzvah classes beginning in October. Check the weekly e-blast for registration information, and for those who are older, like I was at 65 when I had my bar mitzvah, it's a really, really meaningful experience. It's so much more to me, I think, than if I had ever had one when I was younger. If you're celebrating a special occasion or observing a loved one's yard site, we hope you will consider sponsoring an oneg to honor the occasion. Contact the main office for more information. MRT would love for more people to invest in our mission of connecting as a Jewish community. We welcome your investment of time as well as donations to help us grow. For information on joining our MRT family or making a donation, please contact Jordana in our office or visit our website, www.monmouthreformtemple.org. And Rabbi Edelman and Cantor Clissold are always available as well. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Wayne. We're going to continue with page 586 with our Aleinu prayer. Please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tei gedula le'otzer bereshit, shehu noteh shamayim v'yotzer haaretz, u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mimal, u'shchinat uzo b'govhei meromim, hu Eloheinu Enon, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed from this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss and life and death. Tonight, we are remembering Harriet Austin, Gerald Baker, Ann Barron, Herman Burns, John DiVincenzo, Cynthia G. Figus, Jane Ginther, Jack S. Gold, Bella Grunsfelder, Lester Gutterman, Martha Halpern, Meyer Heyman, Cheryl Bergson Horowitz, Sid Komar, Alice LaBelle, Sidney Melnick, Cecilia Merlis, Stanley Elliott Mitchell, John Potter, Mark Anthony Audu, Todd Richmond, Rosalie Rosen, Gladys Pfeffer Sims, Jeff Smith, Irene Touchban, and Bob Wolf. We are in Shiva for Gregory Teuter, and in the period of Shloshim, 30 days since their passing, of Mary Barron, baby Mark Y., Nancy Baskin, Walter Beck, and Don Borges. Are there any other names that you would like said tonight? Please say them now for the Kaddish.
David Mulder.
Bessie Hobart.
Together we say on page 598, Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach v'yutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaye chod v'yomei v'chaye defol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah v'barach le'olam v'olmei amayah. Yitvarach v'yishtabach v'yitfa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekudashah b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiram v'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Osei shalom v'mramav, huya asei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen.
Oh, say shalom b'mramav, huya say shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
Our closing song can be found on page 677. Our prayer is, "O guide my steps," a very meaningful prayer at all times, but I think especially at this time in our lives.
Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps and help me make each day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps. Ufros aleinu sukkot shenomecha. Ufros aleinu sukkot shenomecha.
Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps and help me make this day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps.
Oh, guide my steps.
Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps and help me make this day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps.
Adonai our God, spread over the entire world the shelter of peace. Shabbat shalom. All right, I want you to go right in and eat immediately. So I'm going to do the prayer with you here. Is it ready, John? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom.